What's your secret that you won't tell anyone outside? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. I'm jealous of the friendships my friends have with each other. I've never felt as close to them as they do with each other. And as a 40-year-old man, I would feel childish admitting this. I just feel like an outsider sometimes, and just wish I had the same kind of bond they do. Story 2. Just about every day, when I am in the car headed to work, I genuinely contemplate just driving off and leaving everything behind. My fantasy is heading all the way to Alaska, living in a motel room, and washing dishes for work. I can't go through with it because I have people counting on me. Yes, I am in therapy. Story 3. The last time I shat myself I was 14 and walking home from the bus. I didn't even feel it coming. It was just explosive diarrhea. To make it worse, both my parents got home early and my dad's boss was over for a visit. Nobody outside of the four of us knows. Story 4. I read a lot. I wake up as early as 4:30 a.m. so I can read or even stay up super late. Not just because I like it a lot, but because it keeps me from thinking intrusive thoughts ever since my mother died 5 years ago from cancer. The feeling of going into another world, if only for a moment, makes me feel secure. Not sure if that's healthy, but it's better than any antidepressant I was given that made me feel like a different person. Story 5. Sometimes I get up in the morning, shower, get ready, and then get back into bed and pretend to be sleeping just so my daughter can run into our room and wake me up. She's 7, and still loves waking me up in the morning to get my day started by seeing her face first. I pray that I will never know a day that doesn't start like this. Story 6. I once sat in a sauna at the gym contemplating what to do in life. Just in one of those moments in life where the road ahead was unclear. A man walked in who was March 30th, 2024, older than me, and sat down. Just the two of us were there. I felt this strong urge to ask him his advice, what his regrets in life were, if he were in his 20s again, what would he do differently, etc. But my social anxiety and general fear of men kept me quiet. I've always regretted it. I think sometimes life puts opportunities in our path to learn and grow, and missing any of them due to something like social anxiety is such a waste. Story 7. My mother died in childbirth. I was the child. There was a photo my dad kept on the mantle. He's got my sister hoisted up on his shoulders. He's looking out of breath and nervous. He set the timer on the camera and wasn't sure of the settings. My mother is stood next to him, his arm around her, and she's looking up at them and laughing. She looks young, happy, and very pregnant. When I was about 7, I destroyed it. He turned the house upside down looking for it. Eventually, he thought it stolen for the silver frame, toured the pawn shops, and banned me and my sister from having visitors. Story 8. I have told a few people, but it's limited. I am a CS victim, and my abuser made national news twice for the video she took of us boys. Not the physical abuse. Police didn't investigate properly. And when I went to make a report 30 years after the abuse, the cop at reception was a hostile, rude, aggressive man. I walked out actually crying. The cop quit his job 2 weeks into his investigation. But that cop literally broke me soul. I don't feel strong enough to open up about my abuse and how hard it's been being let down by police at every step. Story 9. When I was training for a marathon, I was out for a run and had sudden onset GI issues. I ran behind a bush on someone's lawn and had perhaps the largest shit of my lifetime. It was early morning. Nobody saw me. I had to run home with squidgy and the worst swass of my life. I threw out my shorts and shirt and had a shower. Story 10. My dad bought me an expensive, hideous piece of jewelry when I had each of my babies. I pawned them, but tell him they were in a box that was stolen out of my storage unit. I felt guilty about it until I remind myself he kicked me out a couple months after turning 18. Came home to all my things in the driveway and all the locks changed. And I'm an only child. He's lucky I even speak to him still. Story 11. I've tried to off myself several times before. I have letters hidden everywhere to my husband and my kids and my mom and siblings. I started Zoloft because of it. I developed a panic disorder about 3 years ago, and no one would take me seriously when I would try to talk about it, other than my husband. I started Zoloft for my anxiety, But in reality, I started it so I would stay alive for my husband and my children. And it's been 4 months in, and the past 2 weeks I've actually felt happy, like excited about living instead of the opposite. Story 12. Back when we were dating, my wife found out I'd never had a surprise birthday party before. She really wanted to throw one for me, which I was okay with. Only one problem: it never worked. She'd try almost every year, try throwing surprise parties for other occasions. Each time, as she was planning stuff, I'd pick up on some discrepancy in her cover story, or pick up on something that a friend said, ask about it, and she'd be unable to cover it. Then finally, after years and years of this, she pulled it off. She was delighted and so proud that she at last managed to surprise me. She's talked about it for years, about how close I came to uncovering it. It made her so happy, and it was a lot of fun. Except what actually happened is I finally managed to be quick enough putting the pieces together to stop myself before I asked about the discrepancy in her cover story. Played dumb, pretended I had no idea. Acted surprised when the day came. She will never know. Story 13. I don't like the name we picked for our daughter. It's a classic name that works well where we live and with her brother's name. I don't hate it by all means, but I would have wanted a different name. I couldn't bring myself to tell my partner because it is his favorite name of all time, and he agreed to my favorite name for our son. I am about to pop, and at times, I think I have not delivered already because I am not ready to accept her name. Edit. I probably should delete the comment, as it's not a secret anymore. I sat down with my partner and told him that I don't really like the name we chose for our daughter. We had a long talk about it. He had similar feelings with our son and didn't say anything as he knew it was my favorite name. But he also said the name really grew on him, so no regrets there. We agreed on waiting until she is here, and look how I feel about her being called by that name. If I really can't roll with it, we will look into different options and use that name as a middle name. We agreed on a different one for family reasons, but it isn't that important to us. Honestly, just talking to him about my doubts is making me feel a lot better. Ironically, I now have the feeling the name will grow on me. LOL. Pregnancy hormones are wild, and all the good stories about names growing on people really helped as well. Thanks for everyone's advice. Story 14. I have written a script that automatically generates new Google Voice numbers, emails, and various social media profiles to harass all the people that bullied me in high school and those who sexually assaulted me 20 years ago. If they block the number, a new number is generated and calls them every 5-60 minutes randomly. Email-wise, they get flooded by infinitely generated emails regarding bullying and sexual assault that they have to manually block. Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Scientologists, and a bunch of other people knock on their door all the time since they are signed onto their lists. Once a year, I'll update the information in the script if they move or change their number, but this will continue to happen to them until they die. I had an idea to contact their spouses and kids and show them all of this, but decided against it because they were not at fault for any of this. Story 15. I haven't told almost anyone. I'm a dude. I'm straight, but had my curious phase in late teens, early 20s. I'm a fat dude and wasn't popular in high school. I graduated in 2009, at which point, if you came out as gay or admitted to messing around with another dude, you were immediately seen as weird and gross and were usually cut off by your friends. I was really good friends with one of the most popular dudes in school, and him and I had a gay sexual relationship going on for a few years, probably about 6 in total. Never kissed or anything, because it was purely sexual and nothing more. I'm still friends with him, and he's always been a really cool dude, and we don't do that stuff anymore. But it just goes to show people that even the most popular dudes can have some crazy secrets. Also, another one. I was squatting in my friend's grandparents' house for about 3 weeks. I lived in their basement, which they rarely went into, unless it was to do laundry, at which point, I'd hide behind some boxes they had in the corner. I would usually poop in a bucket, and then put the bucket in the bulkhead. For those who don't know what a bulkhead is, it's a staircase that leads out of a basement and up to some big metal doors like this, until I could get rid of it. I had somehow misplaced the bucket and had to poop really badly and had no idea what to do. There was no way I could sneak out without getting caught. I ended up having the runs and pooped in a small trash can I found. The issue was, that the bulkhead doors were completely locked and I couldn't get the door open. So I was stuck with a very stinky trash can. I had to get rid of it, and I could only think of one way to do so. So I dumped the poop in the washer and turned it on and ran it through 2 loads. I didn't really need to be super quiet in the basement, as the area of the basement I was in was under a few spare bedrooms they had. So I pretty much used their washer as a toilet. Nothing ever came of it and they never found out. But I felt terrible because they are genuinely good people, and I actually really care about them a lot. But I don't think I could ever tell them. As to this day, they still don't know I lived in their basement for 3 weeks. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.